Welcome to our immigration briefing show. Today, we're diving into a heated controversy that's shaking the nation: the tragic shooting of a Minneapolis protester by federal immigration officers. President Trump, unfazed by the backlash, blames Democrats for stirring chaos and calls for new laws against sanctuary cities. Meanwhile, critics say the president's focus is more on political rhetoric than the incident's real details, fueling tensions over immigration enforcement. Next, we turn to Minnesota's own turbulent history of activism and protest, which sets the stage for today's clashes. The community's deep roots in labor rights and civil rights movements are now fueling fierce resistance against federal immigration tactics. Recent protests, inspired by past struggles and the 2020 George Floyd uprising, show a community standing strong, demanding justice and transparency. This historic resilience continues to shape the ongoing fight for social justice in Minneapolis. Finally, we analyze the incident itself, a shocking event caught on video, revealing conflicting narratives. Family members and witnesses insist the victim, Alex Preddy, was unarmed and innocent, while authorities claim he posed a threat. As protests erupt and investigations unfold, the nation watches closely, questioning law enforcement tactics, civil rights, and the future of immigration policy. Please stay tuned for more detailed insights. The Toronto Star vividly depicts the turbulent aftermath of the Minneapolis shooting, emphasizing President Donald Trump's unwavering stance amid widespread criticism. Despite the tragic death of Alex Preddy, a protester shot by federal immigration officers, Trump persists in blaming Democrats for the chaos, accusing them of inciting violence and encouraging obstruction of law enforcement. His rhetoric remains defiant as he calls for legislation targeting sanctuary cities, showcasing his steadfast commitment to his immigration policies, even amid the threat of a government shutdown. Throughout the weekend, Trump refrained from public appearances but continued to post provocative messages, dismissing concerns about the shooting and instead focusing on unrelated disputes like White House construction lawsuits and praising foreign troops, reinforcing his unyielding political narrative. The Toronto Star also explores the disturbing influence of far-right ideology on Trump's approach to dissent, highlighting philosopher Curtis Yarvin's radical visions of a society devoid of democracy, governed by a white oligarchy, and driven by terror. Yarvin's ideas, which advocate for the systematic elimination of protests and opposition, resonate with some of the administration's tactics, such as deploying heavily armed federal officers to suppress protests with lethal force. The article underscores how figures like Stephen Miller and Vice President J.D. Vance have embraced Yarvin's theories, reflecting a disturbing trend toward authoritarianism. The narrative draws a chilling parallel between Yarvin's advocacy for terror and the real-world violence unfolding in Minneapolis, where federal agents have killed protesters under the guise of law enforcement, raising alarms about the erosion of democratic norms and the normalization of state violence. BBC's analysis offers a detailed, frame-by-frame examination of the Minneapolis shooting, providing a sobering visual account of the events that led to Alex Preddy's death. Using multiple angles of footage, the report reconstructs the moments before the fatal shot, revealing the distressing reality of federal officers confronting protesters. The analysis underscores the brutality of the incident, which occurred just weeks after another fatal shooting of Renee Good by immigration agents, illustrating a pattern of lethal force used against civilians protesting government actions. The BBC's verification process highlights the disturbing escalation of violence in Minneapolis, emphasizing the urgent need for accountability and transparency in the face of government narratives that often deny or minimize the use of deadly force. The Associated Press vividly reports the escalating political turmoil surrounding the Minneapolis shootings, with moderate Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen leading calls for the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Rosen vehemently criticizes Noem for her alleged mishandling and misleading statements regarding the fatal shooting of protester Alex Preddy by Border Patrol agents. Rosen's fiery stance is fueled by recent incidents, including the controversial shooting of Preddy, which contradicted official narratives and sparked widespread outrage among Democrats. The article highlights how Rosen's push for impeachment, supported by over 100 House Democrats, signifies a shift in moderate Democratic attitudes, now demanding accountability amid a tense atmosphere of violence and unrest. This political friction threatens to complicate legislative priorities, such as funding bills, as Democrats grow increasingly vocal about holding DHS officials accountable for violence and misconduct. The Toronto Star offers a gripping account of the conflicting narratives over the deadly confrontation involving Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old nurse, in Minneapolis. At a fiery press conference, Governor Tim Walz sharply contrasted the federal government's aggressive immigration enforcement with the community's suffering, asking whether Americans want to support an all-powerful government capable of violence or stand with victims like Preddy, who was shot while unarmed. Meanwhile, Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino shifted blame onto Preddy, asserting that he chose to interfere with law enforcement and carry a weapon, despite video evidence showing Preddy with only a phone in his hand. The family of Preddy, devastated and furious, condemned the authorities' narrative, emphasizing that their son was not armed when shot, and calling for a transparent investigation. Demonstrations erupted across the country, with protesters demanding justice and an end to federal immigration crackdowns, reflecting deep national divisions over law enforcement's use of deadly force and the morality of immigration policies. Yahoo US's coverage captures the emotional and political fallout from the Minneapolis shootings, focusing on reactions from Kentucky officials and the broader debate over accountability. Prominent figures like Governor Andy Beshear and U.S. Representatives Morgan McGarvey and Thomas Massie expressed outrage and called for full investigations into the shootings of Preddy and Renee Good, emphasizing the need for transparency and justice. McGarvey, a Democrat, went further, supporting impeachment efforts against Kristi Noem, accusing her of defending law enforcement's actions that resulted in innocent deaths. Conversely, Massie, a Republican, defended law enforcement's right to carry firearms and justified the shootings as legally justified, underscoring the polarized political climate. The article underscores how these tragic incidents have ignited a fierce debate across party lines, with calls for accountability echoing from state capitals to federal agencies, amid increasing tensions over immigration enforcement and the use of deadly force by law enforcement officials. The Toronto Star vividly details the mounting bipartisan concern surrounding the tragic Minneapolis shooting involving federal immigration agents. Prominent Republicans, including the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee and senators like Cassidy and Tillis, are calling for comprehensive investigations into the incident, emphasizing the importance of transparency and safety. These officials express concern over the administration's aggressive immigration tactics, with some criticizing the use of force and questioning the rationale behind the operation, especially given the presence of a permit to carry a gun by the victim, Alex Preddy. Despite strong defense from federal officials claiming self-defense, the incident has ignited debates over federal enforcement practices, gun rights, and trust in government, with some GOP members urging restraint and de-escalation amid the tense atmosphere. Associated Press reports on the urgent plea from over 60 Minnesota business leaders, including giants like Target and Best Buy, who have issued a joint call for calm and cooperation after the shooting sparked widespread protests and economic disruptions. These CEOs highlight the economic toll, with some reporting sales declines up to 80%, and emphasize the need for unity among local, state, and federal authorities to find sustainable solutions. The letter underscores the importance of peace and collaboration, especially at a time when the state's economy and community stability are under threat. This collective corporate voice reflects a broader concern about the societal impact of federal immigration enforcement and the urgent need for dialogue and restraint to restore trust and stability. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation underscores the political and social turmoil following the Minneapolis shooting, with Democratic leaders demanding the withdrawal of federal immigration officers from Minnesota. The incident has intensified tensions, with the family of Alex Preddy fiercely contesting the official narrative, asserting he was unarmed and not a threat. Meanwhile, President Trump and Republican officials have criticized local leaders for what they perceive as incitement and inadequate protection of law enforcement, further polarizing the debate. Demonstrations continue across the country, with protesters condemning ICE operations and demanding accountability, while federal and state authorities clash over the investigation's control. The scene is charged with emotion and controversy, capturing a nation grappling with issues of immigration, law enforcement, and civil rights amid a deeply divided political landscape. The Associated Press paints a heartfelt portrait of Alex Preddy, a Minneapolis ICU nurse whose life was tragically cut short during a confrontation with Border Patrol officers. Known for his kindness, warmth, and dedication to others, Preddy was deeply involved in community protests against harsh immigration policies, reflecting his strong sense of justice and compassion. His family and neighbors describe him as a man who cared profoundly about people and the environment, with a history of activism rooted in his outrage over injustices like ICE raids and the treatment of immigrants. Despite the chaos surrounding his death, family members challenged the official narrative, asserting that he was not armed and was shielding others from pepper spray when he was fatally shot, an assertion they hope will bring truth to light amidst political accusations branding him a domestic terrorist. CBC contextualizes Preddy's death within Minnesota's long-standing tradition of activism and protest, highlighting the state's historic role in labor and civil rights movements. From the bloody Teamsters strikes of the 1930s to the civil rights organizing of the 1960s and the racial justice protests following George Floyd's murder in 2020, Minnesota has a rich legacy of grassroots resistance. These historical moments, marked by violence yet ultimately leading to significant social gains, echo in today's protests against immigration enforcement and ICE operations. The community's organized efforts, neighborhood watches, legal aid, and coalition building, mirror past movements' strategies of collective action and solidarity, demonstrating how Minnesota's history of activism continues to shape its response to contemporary crises. Australian Broadcasting Corporation recounts how 1960s promotional films, created to attract migrants to regional Australia, serve as nostalgic time capsules that depict an idealized vision of life in towns like Mount Gambier. These films, part of government efforts to boost post-war migration, showcased local industries and promised economic opportunity, predominantly targeting British migrants. While effective in attracting newcomers, many migrants found the reality differed from the idyllic portrayals, with some returning home after a few years. Today, these films have been digitized and re-released, offering a glimpse into Australia's past and the government's vision of a modern, thriving nation. The project underscores how media campaigns shaped migration narratives and community identities, with hopes that future productions might modernize this legacy of storytelling. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.